Most investors focus on one number when evaluating an investment: return. 8%, 10%, maybe 15% if they're being optimistic. But sophisticated investors often focus on a very different number: the tax impact. Because over a lifetime of investing, taxes are often the single largest expense an investor faces. Not volatility, not fees, not inflation, taxes. And in real estate investing, one provision in the tax code can dramatically change how those taxes work. It's called bonus depreciation. For a period of time, investors were able to deduct 100% of qualifying property components in the first year through bonus depreciation. Then the law changed and that benefit began phasing down. But in July of 2025, the rules changed again. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act restored permanent 100% bonus depreciation for qualifying assets placed into service after January 19, 2025, which means the tax strategy many investors thought was disappearing is now back on the table. And that has major implications for how real estate investments are structured. Because when you combine bonus depreciation, cost segregation, and multifamily assets, investors can sometimes receive significant tax deductions while the property is still producing income. And today I'm going to break down exactly how that works, including the specific metrics I personally look at when I evaluate my multifamily investments. If we haven't met before, my name is Adam Williams. I'm the founder of Elevest Capital, and for more than 2 decades, I've focused almost exclusively on multifamily real estate investing. Last year alone, we completed over $200 million in multifamily transactions, and I added more than 1,300 apartment units to our portfolio. But one of the things that surprised me early in my career wasn't just the returns, it was the tax structure behind the investments. Because once you understand how the tax code treats real estate, you start to realize something extremely important. Real estate isn't just an asset, it's a tax-efficient income system. And bonus depreciation plays a major role in how that system works. Let's start with a simple comparison. Imagine 2 investors. Both earn $400,000 per year. Both invest $250,000 into an investment opportunity. Both earn a 10% return. On paper, those outcomes look identical. But what happens after taxes can be very different. You see, investor number 1 invests in a traditional taxable asset like stocks, private equity, or a typical investment fund. They receive income, they pay taxes, and their after-tax return is reduced significantly. Investor number 2 invests in a real estate structure that generates depreciation and bonus depreciation deductions. They also receive income, but the depreciation offsets income on paper, and bonus depreciation accelerates those deductions into the early years of the investment, meaning the investor may receive cash flow while reporting a paper loss on their taxes. That difference in structure is where things start to become powerful. Now let's walk through a simplified example. Imagine a $40 million multifamily property, and for simplicity, assume the following breakdown. The total purchase price is $40 million, the land value is $8 million, the building value is $32 million. Only the building depreciates. Residential real estate depreciates over 27.5 years. So without any acceleration, the building would generate approximately $1.16 million per year in depreciation. That alone already creates meaningful tax shelter. But now let's introduce cost segregation and bonus depreciation. A cost segregation study may determine that about 30% of the building components qualify for a shorter depreciation schedule. Things like your appliances, your flooring, your lighting systems, your parking lots, and certain interior finishes. 30% of that $32 million building equals $9.6 million. When 100% bonus depreciation was available, those components could be written off much faster in the early years of ownership. When a multifamily property is purchased, the tax benefits typically come from 3 layers working together. The first layer is the cost segregation study. The second layer is bonus depreciation on short life assets. And the third is depreciation allocation across investor equity. So let's look at step 1, cost segregation. A cost segregation study typically identifies 25 to 35% of the building value as shorter life components. Using the same $40 million example, let's say the purchase price is $40 million, the land value is $8 million, and the building value is $32 million again. If roughly 30% qualifies for accelerated depreciation, that's $32 million times 30% equals $9.6 million. Now let's move to step 2, the bonus depreciation. Under 100% bonus depreciation, those accelerated components may be deducted immediately in the early years of ownership. So approximately $9.6 million of accelerated depreciation becomes available across the investment. Okay, now let's move into step 3, the equity allocation. Now consider how the deal might be structured. The purchase price again of $40 million, the debt $28 million, and the equity $12 million. Those depreciation deductions are allocated across $12 million of the investor equity. So when we combine the accelerated depreciation to the investor capital, you get an equation like this. $9.6 million divided by the $12 million in equity equals 80% first year depreciation relative to the equity invested. This is why many multifamily investors may receive first year tax deductions equal to roughly 60 to 80% of their invested capital. For example, I averaged about a 72 cents on the dollar for dollar tax deduction that offsets all of my passive income. That's the power of what we're talking about here today. So if an investor contributes $500,000 to the deal, a realistic first year experience might look something like this. They receive cash distributions of around $40,000 to $50,000, but they take a tax loss on their K1 of around $300,000 to $400,000. So the investor receives their cash flow while they're also receiving large paper losses for their tax purposes. It's important to emphasize that the exact amount varies based on several things, like the results of the cost segregation study, the leverage levels in the deal, the bonus depreciation rules, and the investor's ownership allocation. But in many multifamily investments, this is how the first year depreciation can reach 60 to 80% of the invested capital. The reason depreciation can sometimes appear extremely large relative to the investor's capital is simple. Depreciation is calculated on the entire property value, not just the equity invested. And because investors typically finance part of the purchase with the debt, the depreciation is generated by the full asset value while being allocated across the smaller pool of investor equity. But there's an important point many investors misunderstand. See, bonus depreciation doesn't eliminate taxes forever. It changes the timing of the taxes. And that timing can be extremely valuable when you're building a long-term investment portfolio. But to really understand why bonus depreciation matters, we need to look at why it existed in the first place and how the rules are changing. Because the timeline of bonus depreciation is actually very important for investors. Now, here's an important update. The original phase-down schedule from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act did reduce bonus depreciation from 100% to 80%, then 60%, then 40%, and then 20%. And it was going to go away entirely. But that is no longer the current rule, because on July 4th of 2025, President Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act into law. And that law restored and made permanent 100% bonus depreciation for eligible property that was placed in service after January 19th of 2025. And that means for qualifying assets, investors are no longer operating under the old phase-down schedule. They're now back under a framework where 100% additional first-year depreciation is available again, assuming the property qualifies under the updated Section 168K rules. That matters because it changes the planning window. Under the old framework, investors were working against the shrinking tax benefit, but under the current framework, the opportunity becomes structurally more durable. And in early 2026, the Treasury Department and the IRS issued interim guidance confirming the permanent 100% additional first-year depreciation deduction under the amended rules. So if you're evaluating multifamily investments today, the relevant question is no longer whether the bonus depreciation is fading away. The real question is whether the deal has the right characteristics for cost segregation, depreciation allocation, and usable tax efficiency. Now let's talk about how this might matter for someone earning a high income. Imagine an investor is earning $500,000 per year. If they invest into a multifamily deal that generates depreciation losses, those losses may offset passive income from other investments. And for some investors, depending on their tax situation, these losses may become usable through strategies like real estate professional status. Now, the details depend on individual tax situations, but the important concept is this. Real estate investments can generate paper losses while producing real income. And for high-income investors, that dynamic can significantly change how their portfolio performs after taxes, which is why sophisticated investors often analyze deals not just based on the return projections, but also based on the tax efficiency. When I evaluate a multifamily investment today, there are several metrics I focus on very closely. First is the cash-on-cash return. This measures the income generated relative to the capital invested. Second is the debt coverage ratio, which helps determine how resilient the property is to economic fluctuations. Deductions. And the third is rent growth potential, because small changes in rents can have large impacts on the property value. Now, the fourth is tax efficiency, including depreciation and bonus depreciation. And finally is the exit strategy, because how an investment ends is just important, if not more important, than how it begins. And when those elements align, the investment becomes less about speculation and more about long-term income engineering. And after more than 20 years in real estate, one belief has stayed consistent for me. Sustainable wealth rarely comes from chasing the highest return. It comes from building durable income systems. Systems that generate predictable cash flow, systems that manage the risk, and systems that align with how the tax code actually works. See, multifamily real estate happens to sit right at the intersection of those three things, which is why it's been the primary focus of my career. At some point, every investor faces a decision. You can be a hope-based investor, or you can be an income engineering investor. Hope-based investing relies on the markets rising. Income engineering focuses on the structure of income, tax efficiency, and durability. And over long periods of time, that difference in approach can become extremely significant. If you're interested in learning more about how we structure multifamily investments at Ellevest, visit ellevestcapital.com and book a call with my team. We'll take the time to understand your goals, evaluate your current portfolio, and discuss the type of income strategy you're trying to build to determine whether working together might make sense. And for those of you who are serious about actually doing deals, I created a community of real estate investors called the MORE Club. MORE stands for Maximizing Opportunities in Real Estate. And inside the club, we go deep on these topics, into the opportunities, and we invest together in deals that make sense. You can find the MORE Club at school.com, that's SKOOL.com/MORE Club. I'll put the link below, and I'll see you in the next video.